You look like Morpheus. You ever just see the movie? He's a beautiful man. He trained Neo to go down to overcome the Matrix, because everybody in the Matrix is asleep. It's the whole story. Actually, they have a footnote about it because it's very important to how I give over my Torah. It's really important to know how the movie works in order to understand the deeper message. Anyway, the architect says to Neo, "There have been like you before. There's always these glitches in the program. Somebody who thinks he can overcome the Matrix. No chance, man. You won't be able to do it." And Neo says, whatever. I remember the words of the scene. We can show it on the screen here. I have a friend who shows it. He has a 6-hour presentation of the Matrix. Then he started doing the Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. And we look at movies together. And it's no joke. He's an amazing teacher. His name is Mordechai Greenfield, a dear friend and partner. And he does it in yeshivas and seminaries. He can be invited to the States as a master of showing the Torah that's behind all of the movies. And it's not like artificial. He literally shows you how deep these things are and what you can now bring out of them when you have a little Torah. So we've seen the movies together, and then we've kind of done the sourcing on it, and then he goes and he gets further beyond anything I could ever do.
In my car.
Amazing. So The Matrix is a very important movie. So the architect is the one who is... The problem with the Matrix, as I understand it, to the point that I understand it, is they didn't go beyond the architect. Well, God is above the architect. Like in Chad Gadya on Passover, one of the last songs we sing, the angel of death is not the last character. Hashem is above the angel of death. The angel of death is an important character in creating the framework of a world where man can have free will, and he is an important servant of God in that sense. Nothing is outside of the purview of the one God. There's no such thing as really a force of evil in and of itself. We personified it, like in the book of Job. I'll do all of this in this book. I don't want to drive you crazy, but I mean, I try and bring a lot of things together. And there is a scene in the book of Job where God talks to the Satan, the Satan. And the word Satan means the accuser, the prosecutor. Lastin is to prosecute, to accuse. And so he comes up to heaven in verse 7 of the first chapter of the book of Job. It'll help a little bit. I don't know where anything is in these books anymore.
To edit them all into one book.
I have to make a screenplay.
Yeah.
Like movie.
Thanks for being patient. There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. That man was decent and upstanding. He was a God-fearing man, and he turned away from all evil. Job bore 7 sons and 3 daughters. His possessions totaled 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoked oxen, 500 she-asses, and numerous servants, such that this man was truly the wealthiest of all the men of the East. Being that Job had 7 sons, his son used to go and feast in the home of each brother on each day of the week. They also used to send and call for their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. After every weekly cycle of feasting, Job sent and called them to come to sanctify themselves. He would rise up early in the morning and offer burnt offerings on their behalf, corresponding to their total number. For Job said, "Perhaps my sons have sinned and blessed, i.e. cursed, God in their hearts." Thus Job did constantly. And it was the day. This is verse 7 now. That was 6 verses. And it wasn't, we switch now. We switch up to heaven. That's what's going down here on earth. And the book of Job is the book of human beings. It's about life. Well, we have to know what's going on upstairs in order to understand the book of Job. And it was the day, Vayhi Hayom, which the Zohar says was Rosh Hashanah, the day of judgment. And the Bnei Elohim, the accusing angels, came up to heaven to stand over Hashem. And it could be translated to stand before Hashem, but it specifically says over, and the Zohar says, what does that mean? The accusing angels. God, they did wrong down there. You got to judge them. But God says, but they're good. They mean good. They want to do good. They did bad, and you got to accuse them. And so Hashem is the God of justice. So He has, in a sense, He created justice. He has to conform to justice. But He's mercy also. So that the Torah, the Bible, is a very profound treatise, a philosophical treatise on these various different ways that God runs the world with mercy and with justice. But it does it in personification form. One of the points of coming here is that we're allowed to personify evil. But really we know that evil is a actual attribute of God Himself. Not evil. Judgment. Judgment is what is the source of the possibility of free will, and therefore the possibility of evil. It's ridiculous to do this and to try and explain it. I'll just read a little bit more and I'll look up and see where we're holding. Okay, the verse says, they came to stand over God. And the Satan as well came among them. And Hashem said to the Satan, we'll call him Satan in Hebrew, where are you coming from? And the Satan answered Hashem and said, from flying around the earth and walking to and fro in it. And Hashem said to the Satan, have you noticed my servant Job? There's no one like him in the world. He's a perfect and upright man. He fears Elohim, God's justice, and he turns away from evil. Based on the whole context here, it's God is getting under the skin of the Satan and getting interested in Job. And so his reaction is almost, we can tell in it, even before he says it, perfect? Upright? Are you kidding? Look how much he gave him. He's the wealthiest man in the world. Just give a little pinprick and you'll see where he's really holding. But the Satan answered Hashem saying, does Job fear Elohim for naught? Haven't you made a hedge around him and around his house and around everything he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions are spread throughout the earth. Just stretch forth your hand against him and touch all that he has, and he will bless, i.e., curse you to your face. It says bless every time, but it means curse. It's interesting. So Hashem said to the Satan, behold, all that he has is given into your hand. Only against him, his soul, you may not send forth your hand. So the Satan went forth from the presence of Hashem. And one of the points of coming here is the image is, he bows, and then he goes, the Satan personifies that he has a blind spot. He's a servant of God, but he turns around, and the moment he turns around, he thinks he can do something that would be hidden from God. And he's created like that. And so he goes down and tries to get Job.
Kind of scary.
And there's so much to fill in here. The book of Job is very deep, and there's much to say about it. We'll just point out what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says about Job in the Zohar. Basically, the verses here which take place in heaven are the key to the whole book of Job and to suffering in general. If we only knew what goes on up in heaven before things happen down here, our perspective would change drastically. Notice how Hashem plays with the Satan. Essentially, Hashem does to the Satan what the Satan does to us. He plays on our weaknesses by needling us, getting under our skin, so to speak. So Hashem plays with the Satan by needling him and getting under his skin. Here in the story of Job, Hashem has a very good reason for doing this, according to the Zohar. He wants to turn the Satan's attention exclusively to Job. Have you noticed my servant Job? There's no one like him. Perfect. He's upright. According to the Zohar, this conversation took place on Rosh Hashanah day, when Hashem judges the world. Specifically, the Rosh Hashanah, the 6 months before the first Passover. God wanted to bring the children of Israel, which are the souls, out of the matrix. They wanted to bring the children of Israel out of Egypt.